Welcome to Loaded Talk. I am Frank Kraft, your congressman, the third most popular candidate that's ever been. Along with me is the leader of all legumes, El Capitan himself.
What's up, planet Earth? I'm Charlie.
Charlie. Yes, first and foremost, happy Father's Day, Charlie.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to everybody else. It's not in the room, kind of, but mainly to me and Charlie. I guess our dads. Did you see, so we've been gone a couple weeks, obviously. I was out of the country, and then I came back to a house that had been neglected for the time I was out of the country. Did you see what was happening in Vegas with the alien stuff?
I heard something about it, but I never looked into it because I just assumed it was another... I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a fun one. A lot of people were reporting these lights in the sky, right? And it's kind of looked maybe triangle shape, I think. You know, there's lots of video and still frames of just like, you know, boop, 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 boop. And so this looked like a lighted, you know, aerial vehicle of some sort. And then people start seeing it go down, you know, like kind of crashing or whatever, just going down. And so apparently, you know, lots of people saw it. They're calling in. So this one family calls in 911, and they're like, hey, there's these, like, human kind of people. They're sort of people. They're, like, 8, 9, 10 feet tall. Got big, shiny eyes and, like, really big mouths. And the operator's like, okay, so you said you got some people or some creatures? Like, yeah, I don't think these are human. And it's like, they're like 10 feet tall. And they're like, okay, it's like, and they're like looking at us right now. And so the operator's like, oh, okay, well, we'll dispatch a cop. So the cop, you know, has the camera on, his little cop cam. But apparently his partner had seen the lights go down, this thing. And so his partner was already like, I think it was an alien or something we saw crash. And so now he gets a call to respond to like 2 aliens in the backyard of these people's house. And so he's all hyped up. He's talking to himself on the way out. I was like, holy shit, I can't believe this, you know. So he's running out and he talks to them and, you know, he interviews them. They seem scared, you know, they seem a little flustered. And he's like, I believe you. I believe you. Did anything land in your yard? You know, my partner saw something land. So he's got all these sorts of questions, but, you know, they never found the aliens, believe it or not. But I saw an update, which reminded me of the story, where the cops have now put, I guess, wildlife cameras. They've put cameras in these people's backyard because they're just like, I don't know. We'll see if they come back. So I don't know what to make of that. But the cop didn't seem to think that they were all like drugged out or stupid or anything. So, I mean, for what that's worth, but you know, I don't know. It's kind of a fun story. We might have had aliens walking amongst us, 10 feet tall.
They went immediately to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, right. Aliens were like, we could go to the Capitol, but we just want to gamble. Like everyone says, we got to check out this Area 51 place. Like, let's do it. It is weird, though, isn't it? That, like, you know, you got Area 51 out there, and that's like the kind of HQ of all the alien stuff. And you got that other place where... oh, shoot. That engineer guy that said he was working on, like, reverse engineering UFOs. There's, like, a Netflix documentary about him. It's a good Netflix documentary. He's, like, this just super nerdy. He got put it in a magazine when he was, like, in his 20s because he put a jet engine on, like, a Volvo or something.
Awesome.
And, yeah, and so, like, but he worked at... was it Las Cruces or whatever?
Yeah.
And so anyway, he gets this job offer from the government, he says, and they take him out every day to this one area, and there's basically a hangar inside of a mountain, and he says there's, you know, these different spacecrafts, and he, you know, his was very focused on the propulsion system of this one type that they had, and but he said you could see other ones, and kind of the word amongst the office is some of them were so old they came from like excavations, and others were like crashes that were maybe more recent. But he swears to it, and the guy he's compelling in that he hasn't tried to make any money off of it ever. And like I heard him on Rogan, and it was one of those things at the very end. Rogan's like, "Was there anything else you want to leave us with?" And he goes, "If anybody that's had or thinks they've had experience with spacecraft or aliens or anything like that. And he's like, and I can't stress this enough. I don't want to know about it. Don't call me. Don't tell me about it. Like, I don't care. I don't want to know anything about it. And but he says he got fired because at some point he was getting a little freaked out because he started thinking like this propulsion system that he says like bends gravity. Like if you picture a sheet and you put a bowling ball in, and so it kind of just sucks the device or the ship over that way. But he started thinking of like, what would happen if we took a nuclear reactor to like, the 1500s? It's like these idiots would be banging on it, and at some point someone would get cancer and die, and then someone else would go in and they get cancer and die. At some point they go, oh, it's a curse, it's some sort of voodoo or whatever. He's like, so I'm looking at this thing that's so much more advanced than anything we have, and I don't know at all how it works after years. And you start thinking like, am I gonna suddenly get some weird disease and die? But they do test flights. So at some point he decided, like he was telling his friends about it, which he wasn't supposed to do. But they go out, he's like, what, I'll show you. And they'd go up to this ridge and watch a test flight. And so he said they got bolder and dumber. So he said at one point, they had like the camper up there and, they were just hanging out and like I think they had barbecuing and shit, just not being subtle. And all of a sudden they just hear this like, they look down, there's like night vision goggles that had just kind of fallen forward near his feet, and they're like, what the hell? And all of a sudden it's just and so anyway, he got fired. So but that was around the Vegas area. But that dude, what is that dude's name? Anyway, the Netflix documentary is fun. It's worth a watch. Yeah, I still don't know if things are alien or if the U.S. and China have some really wild stuff that we're just not talking about. Of course, like, I don't know, we sink a lot of money into like jets and stuff. If we have this like secret tool over there that we can fly faster than all of them, why would we keep making these damn jets?
Well, yeah, I've heard Elon a few times discuss how we take for granted China's space program and how more advanced. He's like, I'm glad you guys support SpaceX and how advanced we're, with reutilizing rockets and all that. Yeah. He's like, but you seriously need to look at China's space program.
And I don't doubt it. Part of me, I get a little bit of red flag with outwardly authoritarian regimes, like whether it's communists like China or the Soviet Union was. But when there's like, one might argue that, we all kind of have authoritarian regimes we're living under. But in America, we still pretend we don't. And, in Canada, they pretend they don't. And somebody's here. England, yeah, a lot of Western nations, we pretend like democracy means something, representative republic means something, and that we're not getting screwed all the time. But when you got a country like China, where it's just like, no, I'm in charge. The party's in charge. I think back to like what we learned about the Cold War, the arms races, and we were just like, man, Soviet Union, like they're ahead of us. Look at all this. Meanwhile, they're staging fake parades with inflatable tanks and crap like that, And so like, I mean, China is much bigger and I think definitely better financed than the Soviet Union, and with equal kind of do it our way or we'll kill you and your whole family for 3 generations. So it's very well possible that they do have hypersonic flight capabilities.
Well, their access to material alone is concerning.
That is where they've been just brilliant. Like, they loan money to a country that is, by the way, we make sure all of our settings on our board are the way they're supposed to be after we're monkeying with stuff. Sorry, just...
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just random thought I had. And that...
weird things are happening again.
Are they?
I think it's because we talked about aliens.
It's probably that. Make sure the camera mics are muted in the software, too. Sorry, I just kind of thought about all that. But no, the way China has, like, loaned money to these countries that can't pay them back, and it's always countries that have, like, huge amounts of natural resources, and then inevitably the country can't pay them back, and they go, well, we'll take your port, or we'll take your mines. And so now, like, we good? All right.
You said the camera mics themselves?
Yeah, like if you're in the volume setting in there, like I think there's a separate mixer tab, like a volume mixer tab.
Yeah, I'm in that.
So just 1 and 3, you just pull down the audio kind of deal. I think it's probably fine, but
There we go.
but no, that's why like the cobalt mines in Africa, are Chinese controlled largely, and a lot of there's a lot of mines out there that China controls them, and they just get those resources. They're not naturally in their part of the world, but they're figuring out a way to like kind of free market conquer.
Mm-hmm. Take over ports, build ports.
Yeah, I mean, like if Russia kind of took their port when they went into oh hell, what was it that they conquered like years ago? Crimea. Yeah. So I was getting them all jumbled in my head, but yeah, Crimea. They went in and just kind of took it, and we didn't do anything because we didn't want to go to war, and no one did anything. And there weren't really shots fired. I mean, they had some private operators over there making sure things went their way. But when Russia does it by force, everyone goes, well, that's not very nice. But when China goes, well, look, we loaned them like $1 trillion, and they paid us back $100, so their collateral was the mine. And we go, well, that's how collateral works, guys. You really need to pay attention to these deals you're making. Oh, that was another bit. This isn't even on my list, but did you see what was out about apparently what China's up to in Cuba? Oh, yes. So another callback to the Soviet Union days, the Cuban Missile Crisis. China apparently has been or is planning to. I forget which article came out second. One of the articles I read said that they're planning on building a spy headquarters in Cuba, and then also giving them something like, or investing something like $300 billion in the nation to like rebuild infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. So Cuba's just like, come on in. Yeah. You want to spy on America and give us money? Psh, done. But I saw another article that said they have been spying on America from there. So I don't know.
Wonderful.
They've probably been there and spying, but now they're going to build their new fancy, But they say they'll have the ability to intercept communications from Southeast United States, which
Great.
Of course CENTCOM is in Tampa, and there's a number of Air Force bases in Florida and military bases all along the Southeast. And I don't know if Southeast includes Washington, D.C., or if that's a little bit too far north. It's really borderline. I mean, I wouldn't call it the South, but it's, Virginia's.
So we'll be seeing more balloons shortly.
I think with this, they don't even need the balloons. They're just like, we just hold our microphone up in the air.
Right.
Like, the wind's blowing this way. Oh, good.
Right.
But yeah, well, that's good. So that probably won't make us respond somehow and end up in World War III. No, it'll be fine. All right. Well, so this is something that is we've talked about various things going on with the transgender community and kind of the political movement behind a lot of the stuff that isn't really based in allowing people to live their lives as much as it is somebody stoking fire for some reason. A lot of people have their hair on fire constantly. Well, in California, this one piece of legislation just made it out of committee. So, you go in committee, people talk about this bill. If the committee passes it, then it actually goes to the floor. And theoretically, if things are running the right way, and that's where you can have more debates and more amendments and all that kind of stuff on the floor, open, transparent. Of course, not if you're the U.S. House of Representatives. We stopped operating like that, and largely thanks to Paul Ryan, and then really capitalized on by Nancy Pelosi. And but Democrats and Republicans are very different. But all right, so in California, you can pop over on this one.
Nope. Cookie Monster got us.
Cookie Monster. Let's try. Come on. C is for cookie, and cookie is for me. Let's see if it gives me anything. I don't know. Give it a shot now.
There we go.
All right. So He is a Republican in California, state elected guy. You need to flee. California lawmaker calls for an exodus as child gender affirmation bill advances. So this is from Washington Times. Maybe I'll just read it here. California parents who refuse to affirm their child's gender identity could find themselves losing custody disputes under a bill advancing in the state legislature, prompting one Republican lawmaker to urge families to escape before it's too late. Assembly Bill 957 passed the Senate Judiciary Committee on an 8-1 vote Tuesday, despite a growing backlash against legislation, which would require judges in family custody cases to take into account whether the parents support a child's gender identity. Let's see. There's no nuance in this bill. It matters not the age of the child, the absurdity of the identity adopted, comorbid mental health issues, or persistence. Family court judges will be compelled to favor the parent who affirms the child's delusions, says Aaron Friday. So basically, what this bill says that if you're going through a divorce, there's a custody dispute. I love my pie hole that interrupts all these ads. Look at all these ads they just can't serve. Take that. But basically it says that if you're in a custody dispute and the child, or maybe the parent says the child is trans or non-binary or whatever, if the other parent says, like, no, it's like, well, I think Charlie really is Charlotte now, and 7 years old, and, we're going to start some hormones as soon as we can, wear dresses and all that. If dad's just like, which this is a case that happened before, dad's like, at my house, like, he doesn't ask to wear a dress, he doesn't ask to be called Charlotte, like, he likes to, like, ride his bike and play baseball, and, like, we just hang out, and it's cool. Like, I think there's some confusion here, but I don't think there's, gender issues. Well, that's child abuse under this.
Oh.
Now, it's not criminal child abuse in that you won't be charged for abusing the child, but when the judge has to weigh who gets custody, how the split works, it will be the exact same as if you were beating or diddling your child.
Wow.
Yeah. And, like, the bleeding hearts will say, well, it is abuse if, you got a trans child and the one parent's like, you're not trans, damn it. I'm not calling you Charlotte, you're Charlie. But, like this guy said, actually Aaron, what this lady said is true. The lack of nuance, this is just, in general, two people. And so if the child says, yeah, no, I'm trans. And like, I'm 6 and I'm trans and I'm going to be a transformer when I grow up. This is like, well, that's the gender identity. Like, sir, what's the deal? What do you say, sir? And if you go, no, he just said he wants to be a transformer when he grows up. Like, I think it's been hard because we've been fighting in the house and there's all this conflict. And I think, maybe some counseling would be good, but I don't think it's like child abuse. No custody or supervised custody, because if you're, the most you can help or hope for if you're, an abusive type parent, and rightfully so, is supervised visits, the old Miss Doubtfire thing. And she really got screwed on that one. How did he only have supervised visits? What did Robin Williams ever do to those kids?
Because he had a party, I think.
Oh,
right?
Was that it? Yeah, that part. Yeah. Sally Field. Just wasn't right. Sally Field.
So your rights are out the door if you disagree with something.
Yes.
Great.
If there's a conflict on how to raise your child with your spouse, with whom you're going through a divorce, and it just happens to be on gender identity, then it really doesn't matter. If you say your child is the gender your child was born as, you might as well be, you're going to have to start dressing up as a lady and being a nanny to see your kid. It's an odd result, but denying trans requires you to cross-dress in order to see your kids. Yeah, isn't that funny? It'd suck if you get the whole, you go to your gay cousins over there that work in the makeup industry, and they get you all dolled up, and you're ready to go, and then you're dressed up as a lady, you're doing the housework, and you're just like, well, he's not wearing a dress at all. Like, was this just a lie for the court case? Like, he still looks like a boy. Like, why do I look like this? And that's how it became reality. So that was, I don't know how that'll shake out. Perhaps it'll get voted down. We'll see. Go ahead.
Is the air different in California? What's going on over there? It almost seems like its own country.
Yeah, well, sometimes they say they want to be one. It's just like, well, you rack up a lot of debt that we pay for. Because anytime the government bails out California, it's not California taxpayers bailing them out. It's all of us states that aren't broke. Well, it's actually all of the taxpayers. We're all paying into the federal government, and they just go, there you go, get your books in order, California. Don't do anything zany again. But there's a little different in California. A lot of weed smoke, even compared to everywhere else.
That's fine.
Yeah, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just hotbox the state a little bit too long. Just crack a window, just let a little air in. Of course, so that's something that just popped up towards the end of the week. But obviously, some of the biggest news that's been coming out over the last little bit is what's been going on with our current and former president. Old Donald is J for James? John? What's his middle name?
I don't know.
Josiah? Donald Josiah Trump.
Jermaine.
Jermaine. Definitely Jermaine. Donald Jermaine Tito Trump Jackson Jr. But he got indicted. He'll probably get indicted, I think, 1 or 2 more times before the primary election. Because Georgia, I think they're going to indict him for the phone call where he said, find the votes. And then I think the feds might try and indict him on January 6th still. So 1 or 2 more coming. He's got 2 currently. The New York one that has literally nothing to it. This one, the indictment indictment's charges, so that's before the defense gets a chance to present their own side of things. But not a great indictment if you were Donald Trump. We'll cut over here and see what we have. This is from, we good? Okay. Politico. Trump haphazardly stashed material secrets throughout his home, indictment says. See, that's a bathroom. That picture of the bathroom. First of all, hell of a chandelier for a bathroom. My bathroom does not have enough chandeliers.
Is that also a dining room? I can't tell.
It's Donald Trump. I would not be shocked if he was pooping and eating Big Macs at the same time. Yeah. In and out, same time. It's called efficiency. All right. Kyle Cheney and Josh Gerstein. A federal indictment unsealed Friday charges former President Donald Trump with 37 felony counts stemming from an investigation into the presence of a trove of classified information at his Florida estate and other locations after he left office. So this is all the documents, of course. Prosecutors, led by Special Counsel Jack Smith, allege that Trump arranged to remove a massive collection of highly sensitive classified materials, much of which consists of intelligence about the defense and weapons capabilities of the United States and foreign countries, brought to his private residence. He had aides stash those records in boxes that also included personal items and ordered them shipped to Mar-a-Lago. Let's see, the 49-page document says that at least 2 occasions, Trump showed classified records to visitors without security clearances at his golf club at Bedminster, New Jersey. So I guess he took them to Jersey. And was like, hey, look at this. Including a map of military operation to a representative of his political committee. And I think one of the people he showed stuff to is like a biographer. Like he's writing a biography about him. And I know that there's some audio somehow, or transcripts of audio. But in one of them he says to either the representative of his PAC or the author. I forget which one. But he's like, look at this. He's like, it's crazy. As president, I can say declassified. It's declassified. Now, not president anymore. I can't do that. He's like, well, I could just, not classified. And so it seems to imply that he knew it was still classified, which is also not ideal for a defense. Let's see. As the Justice Department began inquiring about the records stash at Trump's house, the indictment alleges, Trump ordered an aide, Walt Nauta, to begin moving boxes with classified records to obscure them from investigators. He did this without informing his attorney. Who's preparing to search Trump's property in compliance with court-authorized subpoenas to recover his records. 31 counts of violating the Espionage Act, which is a BS law enacted to stop protesters from protesting World War I. Woodrow Wilson. Through willful retention of classified records, 6 counts, including obstruction of justice and false statements stemming from his alleged efforts to impede the investigation. Nada is also charged with 6 felonies related to the alleged cover-up, which obviously they're trying to get Nada to flip on Trump. That's why they're hitting him with 6 felonies. And Smith says, we have one set of laws in this country. They apply to everyone. Which, of course, when you're talking about classified documents being mishandled, it doesn't seem like we have one set of laws. Because, remember Biden? He had them in his, school, the University of Delaware office, and in his garage next to his Corvette, and one other place. He had 3 locations with just boxes and boxes of documents. But, in his garage, which, the door has a lock. Mike Pence, he had not as many. He had a couple documents that he found. But Hillary Clinton had all of her email going through a server that the feds say was almost definitely hacked by foreign parties like Russia and China. Nothing there, but there was some Navy guy that took a picture of something, he got court-martialed because it was on a submarine, technically classified. It was almost nothing, But that guy, string him up, But no, most of the politicians, they could just get away with it all the time. Bill Clinton had that guy, Sandy Berger, he went into the Clinton library, presidential library, but there's some document that they wanted out of there. They didn't want it to be in the library. Sandy Berger shoved it down in his socks and snuck it out of there. And he kind of got caught, but document didn't get caught, So the idea that there's one set of laws is not true, which I think is, it might be selective prosecution. Might actually be somewhat of a defense or a motion for getting dismissed on the front end. Let's see. What else we got? Okay, an ex-president intent on squirreling away national military secrets at his home, irrespective of political consequences. Oh, I don't care. At one point in December 2021, Nada found several boxes toppled in Trump's Mar-a-Lago storage room with papers strewn about the floor, including some labeled as Five Eyes intelligence, which is, of course, the international collaboration of all of our spooks to make sure we can all spy on each other without breaking our own laws. So England and Australia and Israel or whatever, they'll spy on us and give it to America. We'll spy on their people, give it to them, and it's okay. Prism. It's all Prism. So he took a couple photos and sent them to another Trump employee of the spilled docs. They're trying to say each charge is 10-year sentence. Trump is not going to get a life sentence. I mean, he's 70, whatever. 30 years is a life sentence. So he's going to be... That's the BS indictment. The indictment lists 31 specific documents that he's accused of withholding. 21 of the documents are described as top secret, 9 as secret, and 1 as lacking classification marking but involving military contingency planning. So one's not a secret. Let's see. But they basically are saying that, he was aware the whole time that he had the documents. He knew that they wanted him to turn it in. He was hiding them on purpose, and you can't do that, which is technically true. Um, what did you think when all this stuff was coming out?
Well, it just sounded. The first thing that came to mind is it just sounded very familiar. I thought we just got done with. In fact, Joe Biden's son stayed in the house when the documents were in the house.
That's right, and he was dealing with what was it, China, Ukraine, or something
Right,
at that time.
right.
Yeah. It's like, and he didn't have clearance. Like,
And maybe there was a prostitute with him at the time too. Like,
listen, he is a respectful young man. There's no way he'd bring over a prostitute and smoke crack with her while she rubs his unit with her foot, and he wouldn't video it. My favorite part still about all the Hunter Biden stuff is the videos where, like, he's just hanging out with the hooker. I think maybe and then the afterglow, or maybe before they've gotten down. I don't know, but just hanging out and smoking crack, and the hooker's got the phone or the camera or whatever, and is interviewing them, and he's very forthright when being interviewed by hookers, talking about how he's lost several laptops. And he's pretty sure Russians took at least one of them, and they're like, "Why?" He's like, "Because who my dad is." It's just like, oh, and I think he even says that he thinks that a hooker stole a laptop, like, for the Russians or something, which he says to the hooker that he's smoking crack with. I mean, if at first you don't succeed, try again. But one of the things that's interesting about the Trump case is they are figuring out how to use his lawyers against him. Excuse me. So there's attorney-client privilege, right? But you can't use that to concoct a crime, right? So if you're my attorney and I can't say, all right, we're going to embezzle this money. I need shell companies set up because I'm going to try to launder it through these shell companies. And then we'll trickle it down. We'll do this. Like, if it's clear that we're talking about a criminal enterprise, that's just, whatever it is, racketeering or something. But you don't have attorney-client privilege. At that point, the attorney is participating in a crime. And so there was... I guess audio somehow. I don't know how there's audio. But at some point Trump was asking his lawyers about all the record stuff. And he's just like, well, Hillary's lawyers, they stepped up. They stepped up right away. They came in there like, oh, that was our fault. Like, we did that. That was our fault. We lost some records. And he's like, that worked. He's like, the lawyers came in like, oh, our bad. Yeah, we lost documents. We don't know where they are. And that was fine. He's like, what if we lost documents? What would happen? And he's like, could something like that, because Hillary's lawyers lost it. What happens if the documents just aren't there? And so, he's asking these sorts of questions, which, of course, it's legal, and there's no impropriety in asking your lawyer if something is illegal. Like, is this a good strategy? That's illegal. We can't do that. Oh, like, that's not a conspiracy to commit a crime. It's a little bit, but it's one thing. It's one thing for Trump to phrase it as a question, even if he's hoping. Trump can hope that the lawyer picks it up and goes, "Oh, we'll look into that. Let me have those documents and see what happens." He can hope that it's a little wink nod. Let's see what happens. But the reality of it is, if you ask what happens, and the lawyer goes, "Oh, it'd be bad. It'd be this crime, be bad. The crime, we can't go that way." And you go, "Okay. Well, then that's not a crime, and there is confidentiality there." But chunks of the Fed's case involves communication with Trump's lawyers. And so that's interesting. And then the other part is, let's see, not that one. I'm looking at this article from Axios. Let's see. Let's see. I don't care about Michael Cohen. I don't care about a flashback. So Corcoran, who remains a member of Trump's legal team, was forced to testify after a judge determined there was sufficient evidence that Trump used Corcoran to commit a crime, a move that pierced the standard attorney-client privilege. The 37-count indictment alleges the Trump legal team falsely certified to the Justice Department that all classified documents Trump had taken had been turned over. Trump allegedly misled Corcoran by directing his personal aide, Walt Nauta, to move dozens of boxes containing classified records before Corcoran arrived at Mar-a-Lago to conduct a review. So what they're saying is, in addition to kind of what I was talking about before, because Trump lied to his lawyers and tried to hide things from his lawyers so his lawyers could go and say, no, that's it. I did an exhaustive search, and all the boxes are gone. So y'all have to have everything. They're not here. Because Trump was like, move it. Now move it again. You know, in Scooby-Doo, when they're in the hallway and they're popping out of all the doors? It was like that. The lawyer was looking around. He had his magnifying glass, and Nada was just sitting there like this, popping out other doors, running across the hall with the boxes. Behind him. Scooby pops out at some point. There's the Harlem Globetrotters for no reason.
Move it to the bathroom.
Yeah. Beneath the chandelier. But yeah, so in addition to the conspiring with his lawyer, I think because Trump tricked his lawyer, they're saying you've been used to commit a crime because you falsely, certified or whatever. You falsely certified that this thing was done when it wasn't done. I'm no expert. I don't think that should destroy client privilege, right? Because, like, say you're a criminal defense attorney, right? And I don't know what the person did. Who cares? A mafioso guy, right? And you're defending your client. First of all, you're never going to ask your client, did you murder that guy?
Right.
I mean, you're allowed to, but you shouldn't. Because it's just not good. You can do a much better defense if you're not pretending to, you know. But anyway, if your client was a drug dealer or whatever, and you go in and it's like, okay, well, before we do this, you know, your client has to pass a drug test. And you go, okay, no problem. And you give them a drug test. Maybe you had a cleanser on him or fake pee or something like that. Boom, pass some flying colors. You go, hey, he passed flying colors. I certify, you know, he is sober, has not used drugs in the last whatever days. If they go, well, do it again right now. And then, well, he doesn't have the cleanser anymore. He pees, and all of a sudden, oops, there's cocaine and pot and heroin and meth and, I don't know, other drugs that are tested for. What else do they test for? PCP. Yeah. I don't even know anybody. I haven't heard anybody outside of a movie, even in a movie, use PCP.
Training Day was the last time I heard about PCP.
Yeah, Training Day. That's probably about right. It can't be that popular. You would just assume you'd see some people where you're like, oh, PCP. Like,
right.
You know, other people smoking spice and everything else. You'd think you'd be like, oh, PCP. You know? But anyway, so if your client tricks you and passes a drug test and you certify something, and then it's like, oops, they tricked. I don't think that should, as an attorney, obviously you have a right to kick your client to the curb and go, look, man, if I can't trust you to do what I want, you know, how am I supposed to defend you against these serious charges? But I don't think the state gets to step in and be like, well, you got tricked one time, so we get to hear all of the conversations you've had over all this stuff. Like, that's...
It's your fault you got tricked.
Yeah, not only is it your fault you got tricked, but, like, because you got tricked, any conversation you've had with your client up to this point now is not protected, even though in that moment you were offering it as, you know, privileged content. Your client was treating it as privileged, speaking in a manner which they would not do in front of a investigator or something like that. They go, nope, psych. So I have a feeling that there's going to be some motions on the front end that get rid of some of the evidence, and I think the lawyer stuff is going to get tossed out. I think, court of public opinion is already out there, and which might be more about what they're going for anyway. But I don't know how a judge lets that stand, and it's helpful when you're one Donald Jebediah Jermaine Tito Trump Jackson Jr. That the federal judge, he will be seeing he appointed, and so that is a little helpful. It's one of the nice things about being the next president is sometimes you put all those people in power, and they better remember who did it. Hold on, I gotta take a drink. Say something.
Yeah, that kind of works out in his favor a little bit. But yeah, the whole you can't be accused of something if technically you were ignorant of what you're being accused of.
No, you can be. That's the old ignorance of a crime is not a good defense, which I think is stupid. Because there's
how do you prove that?
Well, that's the thing. They go, it doesn't matter if you know about the law or not. It's the law. And so, therefore, know it, don't know it, can't do it. And so you did it, but, there's so many laws. And, it's different in each state, too. And, you were born, and, you're a child, and you're playing and stuff. You don't know that there's this many, did you ever go into a law office, pre-2000 or whatever? Or even lawyers that have just been practicing for a while, when they have these books.
Oh, on the shelves.
The books of the laws, and it's just good.
It's like multiple encyclopedias of law.
The biggest books you've ever seen is volume 1. And you're just all of those laws rule me right now? Every one of them.
And there's more in my house.
Yeah, seriously. I remember being a kid and seeing these things. I'm how all of these? But yeah, then they just go, well, no, you gotta know them all. We're not gonna tell them to you. Nowadays, you can look it up on the internet, just read through all of the Florida statutes. Then you'll know the Florida ones. Then you gotta go through all the federal statutes. But if you go to a different state, of course, you need to read all their statutes. So I really do think ignorance in certain cases should be a good defense. If it's laws that made it into the 10 Commandments, I think it's a harder sell to say that you didn't know. The whole stealing and killing, coveting your neighbor's ass. Shouldn't do that.
Right. the obvious ones.
Yeah. But beyond that, well, you can't, I don't know, whatever. you can't jaywalk on a Sunday with an ice cream cone. It's oh, okay. So that was a big thing, of course, Trump getting indicted. Well, as a little segue to what was happening around the same time, on Fox News, this producer got fired for a little scroll. What do they call that thing? On the on-screen message. No, they got a name for it. What's the name for the little...
I didn't even know they named it.
Oh, yeah, it's not a... It's, well, whatever. It'll come to me a lot later, but... All right, flip over here. I'm going to take a look here.
Cookie Monster's getting us.
Cookie Monster for ABC News. Let me refresh. Let's see. Son of a gun. All right, well, whatever. I'll just tell you what it said. It's just less fun. But basically, Fox is covering all the stuff going on, so they got a split screen. And so on one side, they got Joe Biden talking to the White House. The other side, they got Trump talking from Jersey. And the little text at the bottom says, "Wannabe dictator speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested." Which is hilarious. Fox News alert.
Man, I wish I saw that live.
Well, apparently it was only up for 30 seconds. They made him pull it down. And then gave him hell for it. And so, but then they ended up firing him. He was there for over a decade. And they fired the guy for doing that text on the screen as if that's really the end of the world, Tucker Carlson did a whole episode on Twitter. You know, that's where his show is now, which I think I've heard right now. He's just kind of, just kind of kicking it. He's not even like monetizing the content, just saying what's up. But he did a great 10 minutes on, it's like, of course he's not a wannabe dictator. Wannabe dictators would do this and list all the stuff that he's doing.
Right.
But real quick on Tucker, episode 1, all of his episodes are 10 minutes right now. 118 million views. 2 has 58.9 million. 3 has 98.5 million. And, some of these might not be people that watch the whole thing. And then this new one that came out 2 days ago is sitting right around 28 million. So when we were talking about him averaging about 3 million viewers a night on Fox, I think he's doing okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he doesn't monetize yet. He just wants to steal viewership.
I think part of it is kind of doing kind of things that we do, where we're kind of knocking dust off of stuff as we go, and we're going to keep getting better. Ooh, wait till y'all see what we have coming up for you soon. We already got this nice fancy border and stuff, but old Charlie's been chopping it up. Anyway, so I think part of it's that, just figuring out a show, getting out there, doing content, getting people engaged, and then
putting feelers out, basically.
Yeah, but I think the other part is he's in a lawsuit right now with Fox. They sent him a cease and desist, and Tucker's lawyers seem pretty awesome. They basically go tell him to pound sand, and they can do whatever they want. But I think it's a lot harder to claim damages in this new. It's he's just talking on Twitter, and he hasn't monetized the content. So what money has he taken from you? Because he still has the money that Fox is paying him. It's just that now he's competing with them, talking shit about him, and getting whatever that is. The hell is that? 33 times the viewers.
Right. Yeah.
Where they're sinking. MSNBC beat Fox the other night.
Wow.
Yeah, MSNBC, which was always a third, if not smaller than that. Fox seems to be tanking, and to hell with them.
A lot of changing of the guard going on right now.
I think it's I think the change is independent media. Substack, I think, changed a whole lot for these writers, where they don't have to be held captive by the New York Times or any of these cats. And so they can have a subscription-based model, and they're trying to add video and all that kind of stuff to it, too. I don't know how that's been going. I guess not great, since I haven't seen it, but maybe some people are doing it. But, and then the podcasts and stuff, there's a lot of people with podcasts. But the fact that you can take, when Bill O'Reilly got fired, he has his own website now, and I'm sure he's doing good, I guess, making money. But you got to subscribe on BillO'Reilly.com to see all your stuff, and so you got to be pretty hardcore into Bill O'Reilly to go subscribe at BillO'Reilly.com. But if you go on Twitter, you don't have to be that hardcore to be like, I never followed Tucker Carlson until recently. I was like, screw it, I'm gonna follow him. Why not? It doesn't cost me anything.
Yep. And
so in a little 10-minute video, I'll be doing something. I'll turn it on in the background. All right, let's see what old Tucker's got to say. Never watched any of his episodes of Fox, but
same here.
Yeah, but that's easy. YouTube, people love watching. I think the independent media thing is really changing. I think the YouTube guard will be the next Goliath that will be hard to squash. That'll still be in the game of censoring and all that, depending on what you have to say and all that, and depending on how comfortable you are being demonetized. Because that's, with Tucker, I guess he's not have to worry about that. But I know we were talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he was on a podcast with the comedian Theo Vaughn, the dude with the mullet. And I guess a year ago or 2 years ago or something. And so Theo, and he was going to go back on, but Theo Vaughn got a strike. YouTube sent him a strike for this content that was a year or two old. And so he basically was like, hey, I want to have you back on. I'm just afraid of losing my livelihood if we talk about COVID or something, because Because obviously, yeah, if it's paying the bills, like as much as you want to do your show and speak the truth, especially if you're kind of a comedian type anyway, where you're not really out there to change minds with COVID. You're just asking people stuff, just asking people, and these people are talking about studies that other people have done, You're not trying to break the internet or anything. It's one of those like, well, I would much rather keep my livelihood and not have to like get a job somewhere than like have this guy on. So I think that beast will be a hard one. Elon's obviously doing something with Twitter to move it towards the X everything app, So maybe that, and Rumble exists, publicly traded now. So there's avenues, but I think that's the next hurdle. Okay. Well, right before Trump gets indicted, of course, this other piece of news comes out. Let's see if Cookie Monster behaves. Hey, look at that. Newsweek. Everything we know about Joe Biden's $5 million bribe allegations. So, Joe had nothing to do with any of Hunter's business, of course.
Oh, no. No.
And this is Newsweek, so they always kind of poo-poo stuff. Newly circulating allegations against the Biden family accuses the president and his son of coercing officials with Ukrainian gas giant Burisma into giving them each $5 million as a part of an elaborate influence peddling scheme during Joe Biden's stint as vice president. No. However, the latest claims of alleged wrongdoing, like other recent claims surrounding the Biden family business deal abroad, lack concrete evidence. Let's see. Okay, so the Federalist said Joe and son Hunter coerced a Burisma official to pay them $10 million in bribes, a claim allegedly verified in a series of 17 audio recordings purporting to depict a series of meetings between the family and Burisma founder Mykola Zolochevsky. So basically what it is there is an FD 1023 form, which the FBI uses as a sort of tip sheet that allows the agency to document unverified allegations of wrongdoing. So if you go, I got something to report, you write down on 1023 the FBI, and then that's kind of the start. Well, so what's his face? Zolochevsky. Was that his name? I'll say it one more time. So maybe Zolochevsky. Yeah, I'll take that. The forum says that Zolochevsky kept 17 audio files. He was recording conversations, 15 with Hunter, but 2 with Joe. And it was kind of his, like, get out of jail free type thing, just because, like...
Smart.
Ukraine has always been corrupt. It's been corrupt. And so when you trade the Russians for the Americans... but it's the same games being played. Like, it's not your first rodeo. Like, you've been bribing people. You've been bribed. You do bribes. I mean, it's just business, And so, of course, you're going to keep some cards up your sleeve.
Yep.
Like, what? All of a sudden, like, Joe Biden is going to somehow be, like, the savior of Ukraine.
Right.
And, like, Putin's people, sometimes you got to slide them a little cash. But, like, Biden, he's going to be different. So, but basically, this forum, it said that these recordings exist. And then, so people were saying, like, well, how come the FBI hasn't followed up, when it comes to documents at Mar-a-Lago? They say, oh, it's a dog of the bone, we're going to go look into that. But it's like, but this one, where, like, maybe as a sitting vice president, our current sitting president may have gotten bribed in order to allow certain things to occur in the country. It's like, should we not look to see if you can buy our president, perhaps before the next election? And they're like, yeah, whatever. And so let's see. Chuck Grassley, we acknowledge it. They can confirm they hadn't heard it, whatever. Giuliani saying crazy stuff. I don't.
So it's like a situation of if you don't look into it, it doesn't exist? Like, if we don't look into the recordings, they don't actually exist.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
That's great.
I mean, if the FBI hasn't heard the recordings... if the Congressional Committee on whatever the hell hasn't heard them, then they're not evidence, are they? I mean, we don't even know that they really exist until we hear them. It's like, well, do you want to hear them? We're just so busy.
Hear what?
It's like, don't you realize we have all these other things? Did you hear about the parents in Virginia? We've got things to look into. They show up at these parent-teacher conferences, and they're pissed. And so we're just so busy. As my dog would say, so beachy. Well, whatever. I don't think anything else in this is worth a damn. But yeah, actually, to your question, there was that whistleblower from the IRS that said politics has gotten way too into this investigation into Hunter's tax stuff. Because remember, that was the big thing. Like we'll open an investigation against Hunter. It's like, oh, cool, about all the Ukrainian stuff. They're okay with Chippa. He's fudging his taxes. He's not reporting all of his stuff. And, Hunter's just like, no, we are. We're going to have to get to the bottom of this. Little flashes. I think maybe when we implement our big plan B or plan A, number one, might be able to fix some of this stuff. But, they're like, oh, it's just taxes. He didn't do his taxes right. And so the whistleblower's like, listen, guys, I will spill my guts, spill the beans, Bean. Like my legume intro there. But he's like, I just want protections. I just want whistleblower protections. I don't want to be fired. I don't want to be sent off to Siberia. I don't want to accidentally get hit by a train or something. I kind of want to do it the right way. So just give me protections. I got lots to tell you about how they're not really investigating Hunter Biden because the White House says not to. And so everyone's just like, where did we put whistleblower protection forms? And one of the main guys, the Republicans that's in in Congress, he said at some point, he's like, lost contact with the whistleblower, don't know who he is, don't know how to get in touch with him.
Wow.
Just, he didn't get the protection, and so he just either buttoned up or had a heart attack or something.
Oh, the old heart attack dart.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Heart attack dart. Heart attack. The thing about, I think a lot of people are forgetting just how corrupt we really were in Ukraine when he was VP Biden. I grabbed a couple things. Let me see what would be. This might be some essential facts. All right, this is from an article in Breitbart about something else, but I want to it has a nice little summary here. In late 2013 and into 2014, mass protests erupted in Kyiv, Ukraine, demanding integration into Western economies and an end to systemic corruption that had plagued the country. At least 82 people were killed during the protests, which culminated on February 21, when Ukrainian Prime Minister Viktor Yanukovych abdicated by fleeing the country. Less than 2 months later, over the span of 28 days, significant events involving the Bidens unfolded. On April 16th, 2014, so, not that much longer. That's, 2 months later? Vice President Biden met with his son's business partner, Devon Archer, at the White House. 5 days later, Vice President Biden visited Ukraine, and he soon after was described in the press as the public face of the administration's handling of Ukraine. The day after his visit, Archer joined the board of Burisma. Biden goes there. 5 days after meeting with Archer, 1 day after that, he's on the board. 6 days after that, on April 28, British officials seized 23 million from the London bank accounts of Burisma's owner, Mykola Zolochevsky. 14 days later, on May 12th, Hunter Biden joined the board. 14 days later. After that, so 20 days after Archer. Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma, and over the course of the next several years, Hunter and Devon were paid millions of dollars from a corrupt Ukrainian oligarch for their participation on the board. The 2014 protests in Kyiv came to be known as the Revolution of Dignity, a revolution against corruption in Ukraine. Following that revolution, Ukrainian political figures were desperate for U.S. support. Zolochevsky would have made sure relevant Ukrainian officials were well aware of Hunter's appointment, blah, 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 blah. So basically after that, it was just like, we got a Biden. We got a Biden. Oh, I didn't open my little slidey on here. Excuse me. Let me see. But that's kind of the start of it, which was just, and what that doesn't really touch on is that, like, we implemented that coup. We were on the ground. Where the hell was her position? She wasn't Secretary of State. She was, I think, in the State Department. But, we had people on the ground handing out food and stuff to all the protesters, people that were rising up. And we didn't do anything. It's fine. Let's see. Here's a little summary of some of the stuff. This is on Fox News. Excuse me. So, Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma in 2014. Hunter had little background in energy. Over 16 months, he got paid $3 million. Joe Biden led the policy. Burisma sought to capitalize on the Biden's name and relationship. Hunter Biden, according to the New York Times, helped assemble the company's legal team, which consisted of American attorneys and consulting firms, including former Obama Justice Department official. Burisma is led by an oligarch named Mykola Zlochevsky, who has served as an ecology minister under pro-Russian leader. Burisma was under legal scrutiny shortly before Hunter Biden was appointed to the board. British authorities froze all that money. And Morgan Stanley shows numerous lines of money going into the account of Robert H. Biden. I assume that's Hunter. Funds originated from oligarchs, anonymous LLCs in Ukraine, China, Kazakhstan, which was, of course, Borat, and elsewhere. In 2013, VP Biden took his son on Air Force Two to China. 10 days later, Hunter Biden's firm scored a $1.5 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Chinese government, Bank of China. So, $1.5 billion deal secured when you ride out on Air Force Two with Pops. I think I might actually put together a whole, Ukraine episode, because, there's so much more to this. There's a guy, what is his name? His name is, that's not Zolochevsky, it's Igor or something. But old Igor was, I think I might have his name right here. Igor Kolomoisky. And he, I think he was one of the founders of Privat Bank, which is kind of like Bank of America. Excuse me. Can't wait till the cough button's there.
Yeah.
But he was like a founder of Privat Bank, which was going to be nationalized because they found out that him and the other kind of co-founder had continuously made loans to basically themselves as LLCs and just kind of funneled money out of the bank constantly. And so they were like, well, we're going to nationalize this bank. Well, at some point, the U.S., I think in conjunction with the IMF, sent $1.5 billion or $1.8 billion in aid to Ukraine. Well, it goes to their big bank, Privat Bank. Well, that money then went out to this LLC type thing in Cyprus. And then from there, it went out to something else. And anyway, it's gone. It's gone. But all these players are all there. And we just kept sending money, we'd disappear, and end up people's banks, end up back in Biden's pocket. And so now we're looking at this war in Ukraine. And it's interesting because a lot of Democrats or left-leaning people are very supportive of Ukraine. But I don't think they're thinking about it fully. They're just you got to stop Russia, right? And America's pretending to care about Ukraine. America does not care about Ukraine. We want to weaken Russia. When we got bogged down in Vietnam, we responded to the Soviet Union by getting them bogged down in Afghanistan by us training this very nice gentleman named Osama bin Laden. And so after him and his nice organization called the Taliban, after we trained them, we got them the Soviet Union got bogged down with them. We said, that's great. We love you, Osama bin Laden, and you wacky Taliban. And then, of course, later, we have to fight them And then we get bogged down in Afghanistan for 20 years. And so we're like, well, how do we give Russia and Afghanistan after we gave the Soviet Union and Vietnam? It's like, Ukraine. But we are, because we're heroes, we don't care how many buildings we have to sacrifice. We don't care how many people we have to sacrifice. We will go through the entire Ukrainian populace until that whole country is just flat level dead in order to stop Russia, because our heart is that big. But it's just, we're taking advantage of the situation to try and get an outcome that'll help us, pretending that we care about Ukraine. But I think beyond that, I think Biden's still making that cash. I think there's a lot of, if you're doing construction, there's a lot of ways to launder money through construction, and people make a lot of ill-got gains laundering. Construction is great for laundering. I imagine war is better. I can't imagine what you could just...
It's like a financial VPN.
Oh, yeah, right? That's a great... Yeah, absolutely. Like, it just seems like... Because what... Money goes missing or whatever. It's like, we're in a war. I don't know. We bought missiles or something. Okay. And I have seen some pictures of some like the Ukrainian oligarchs or whatever. Where some of our aid money is going to. And it's like, damn, that's a nice house with some nice cars on the water. Like, y'all are getting bombed at all over there, huh? It's like, I guess that aid's helping. And I bet you that aid's gonna end up in Hunter's pocket at some point. All right, well, I think that's enough for this week with our fancy yellow border. Remember to click to follow us on the YouTubes and the Rumbles and the Twitters and, I don't know, everything else. iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, I don't know, homing pigeon. But hit the alerts, hit all that kind of stuff. Just loadedtalk.com, as always, has all the information you need. So, that's all I got for this week. What you got there, Chuck?
Have a good week. See you guys next week, Planet Earth.
That's right. Oh, and happy Juneteenth.
Yeah.
That's right. Got Monday off. Boop, boop. All right. Bye, everybody.